Howdy peeps, it's been a little while since I've done a video, and I figured, well, a bit of an update wouldn't hurt, right? So just before I start going into this one, just wanted to sort of point something out. Something that I've always found a bit sort of interesting. That is, on my last video, misogynist laws in the UK, misandry ignored, has had 121 views in 3 weeks. I'm like, okay, that's a fair amount of views. Also, 3 weeks ago, I did one called Rest in Peace Ollie, stuff and story about a girl. Hang on, I have to bloody read this, sorry. Girl gets accomplice to murder her boyfriend. Only 34 views. Only 34 views on that one. And I was sort of like, well, I don't know. It's always been difficult for me to know what my audience actually wants me to sort of talk about. It is a sort of difficult one. Then again, the video that I did 4 weeks ago, the War Against Boys and Men UK 2021, that's only had 61 views. So that's had about half. And that's within 4 weeks. That's taken a week longer. Obviously, a handful of those watches are from yours truly, because I sort of go back to read comments and stuff like that. Sometimes the mobile phone app will give me a link to the sort of comment. Other times, actually, speaking of that, sometimes I don't know if commenters have been removing their comments, or whether YouTube has done that. So, yeah, I mean, I get the notifications, but when it comes to looking for the actual message itself, it seems to be gone. But yeah, anyway, I guess that's just the way of the manosphere, and maybe because I'm not on a up and coming rising star, as it were. Good, because I don't want to be, because I don't, I do watch a lot of other channels within sort of the manosphere regarding going your own way, sort of red pill and that sort of a thing. And I don't really think my content actually, well, not my content. The content, I suppose, is worthy of it. But I suppose in terms of presentation, I don't set out a great deal for you guys, the viewers. It's just like camera on, start chatting shit, off we go. I suppose it's akin to having a pint down the pub or something like that, right? Putting the world to rights. And anyway, to sort of move on with what I wanted to talk about in this video. And that has been, the sort of situations, and I sort of, I'm in an iron with myself as to, that question, like, what do you want out of life? My answer to this day is I still don't actually know. I mean, I wake up most days and I have things that I need to do or that I have to do. Not that I'm under any pressure for it, but, I'm a human doing, right? Like many other guys out there. Rather than waking up and just being in a state of being, Anyway, so I sort of thought about this thing of relationships, because it's something that, we a lot of us have been through different sort of types of relationships, where some of us have found ourselves in a complete mess of a relationship from time to time. And I suppose maybe it's how it affects my thinking and my perspective of women. Like, and look, I'm not saying that from, I think all women are the same. It's like, it's the usual routine of getting to know someone, right? Getting to know if you're going to get along. And dating apps, forget it. They're as shallow as a puddle for starters. It's like swipe left and swipe right. It's like, well, from both perspectives, right? The guys, I mean, generally we tend to look at the pictures and the photos, which there's nothing wrong with that, because women are doing that as well. And then we sort of make our own judgments as to whether we're attracted to that person or not. And a lot of the time, I mean, I'm more interested in hearing what they've got to say about themselves. So I'll read their bio and see what interests they have. And it's almost like a copy and paste job for a lot of them. It's like, oh yeah, I like travelling, I like the sun, I like the sea, I like the beach, I don't like sitting on the beach, I like going out and doing stuff, or I like to be out in the country. And same, it's just, honestly, it's just so the same. It's like boring. A lot of these women on these apps, they're just boring. For me, right? For me, they might suit some other guy, right? It's not going to work for me because it's sort of like, well, I don't have a great deal of interest in going out to sort of pubs and clubs. I mean, all right, at the moment it's 2021, things haven't even opened back up yet. So, and even with that, I'm not going to change my mind overnight as to, oh, I'll just suddenly start going out to pubs, because you're not going to find a decent woman in a pub either, for the most part, because like my experiences, even years ago when I did used to go, and like I used to go to the pub twice a week, and I sort of think to some of the girls that I knew back then, and it's like, not in terms of relationship, just groups of people that we'd hang out with. And so I didn't want to get with them then, and the things aren't going to have changed a great deal. If anything, women would be more pressing each other to drink more, and to rise to that challenge, and then just make a complete fool out of themselves, and publicly humiliate themselves whilst flipping the script and blaming the people that point out their disorderly conduct, or whatever you want to call it. They'll actually have the nerve to flip that round and blame the people, or say to people, oh yeah, well, you're victimising me, because it's sort of like, nah, that to me, that is what pubs are now, and I haven't got time for that rubbish in my life. It's just trash, and I won't entertain it. And then I sort of thought, with this whole relationships thing, I've gone through a lot. For those of you that have followed the channel, for the last sort of 5 to 6 years, you'll have seen some of the situations I've been in when I've been talking about them, and how I've kind of dealt with them, and how I would have liked to have dealt with them versus how how you kind of have to deal with them because of the way things are set out in today's day and age. And it's, by saying that, I mean how you'd like to confront a situation, and it's just trash, and when you sort of go through that once, it's enough to sort of make you really reconsider things as to, if you do get involved with someone, then you do spend the time with them and you get to know them, and maybe you do actually form a kind of bond, whether it's fully psychological on your behalf because you're thinking that they're someone else, that they're not really that person. This is one of the guys that one of the things that I really need to drive home to you guys is, like, don't live in that magical thinking world where you think someone is better than they actually are. You should be living in the real world and judging as each, whenever something happens, make a judgment on it. I'm not saying be irrational or be a dick about yourself. I'm just saying be sensible, right? Because a lot of the sort of, I see a lot of guys out there, and they are ever so forgiving regarding the behaviours of their partners and stuff like that. And I just sort of like, I'll tell them flat out, I'm like, I don't understand why you're tolerating that. Have you called them out on it? And a lot of the time they're like, no. And I'm like, well, if you ain't going to call them out on it because you're too afraid to lose them, you're the weak person in that relationship, because they're going around doing whatever the hell they want. You're just nodding and agreeing for fear of losing them. It's like, look, if you don't want someone like that in your life, if you wouldn't let your friends treat you like that, why would you let someone that you're in a supposedly intimate relationship with treat you like that? You'd kick them to the curb, just as you would your friends. You'd just, do the usual, delete them off of Facebook or whatever, right? It'd be the same thing. But guys nowadays are too weak to do that. Maybe it's a fear of being alone, and I kind of get it to a degree, because I sometimes think about this. It's like, as every year passes, I'm thinking, shit, I'm getting another year older now. I need to start thinking about things. And then as soon as I get to thinking about things, I'm thinking, well, yeah, there have been positives to quite the majority of the relationships I've been in, right? Romantic ones, intimate, whatever, right? They've had positive moments, but it doesn't take away the heartache, the financial loss, the psychological issues where it has become a thing because it affects you. It does affect how you think about the sort of bigger picture. And this is why a lot of guys do go their own way. It's not that they hate women. It's not that they're afraid of the commitment. It's just they don't want to go through all that ball ache later on if a relationship with someone doesn't work out, and then it ends up costing them financially. It costs them time, and then you sort of look back when you come out of a relationship. You sort of look back over the sort of pattern of behaviours from both of yous, and you might be thinking, well, yeah, I could have handled that differently. Could have done that. Maybe shouldn't have said that. The thing is, none of that matters. Especially when you got to bear in mind that a lot of women today, I don't know if they enjoy being a victim as such. I don't know if those are the right words. I don't mean it in a sort of physical, in that sort of sense, but they like being able to put themselves in the clear. Right, this is what I mean by playing that one. Is they like to be able to put themselves in the clear by absconding themselves from any responsibility for the part that they know that they played in that relationship and the downfall of that. This is that thing, oh yeah, it's always the guy's fault. No matter what went on in the relationship, it's always the guy's fault. A lot of the time it's not. it's I suppose maybe it's the guy's fault in whereas, they didn't call out the bullshittery or the mindfuckery that might have been going on. And in some instances you can't blame them because of the way the whole bait and switch thing works, and it's become, I would argue, it's become kind of a standard procedure now. Like as soon as you call someone out, it's the bait and switch. And no one got time for that, And it sort of made me think, like, because we have that. Well, I say we, my friends and I often have that conversation of where do we think the world is going. Downhill pretty damn quickly, and no one really seems to care. So, with that in mind, I don't understand why so many people have such an aversion towards guys that are going their own way, the whole red pill thing. This is what it's about, and yet it is quite nihilistic in a lot of places because that is what the world is about. It's almost like a controlled chaos. Set up deliberately by government and the women's rights activists and the like, and whereas it's, oh yeah, all men are bad, and oh yeah, they need a curfew, and all this other bullshittery, which is what it is. But yeah, then and it'll be the same old cries of, oh, there's no decent guys out there, and it's sort of like, what, for you to ruin? There's no decent guys left for you to destroy, is that what you mean? But anyway, look, I'm going to wrap this one up. This is just a few things I wanted to talk about on this one. And if you guys have got any thoughts, comments, and opinions, feel free to jot them down. As always, until then, stay cool, stay free. Peace out.